So what is UI design and what are the skills to become a UI designer? That's the topic for today's video. Let's dive in. Hey, what's up? I'm Marc Terribilini and I'm all about achieving financial independence through real estate investing and online business. So if you're interested in achieving financial freedom for yourself, be sure to like and subscribe and you will not miss a thing. So the UI in UI designer stands for user interface designer. And what they do is they focus on the visuals of a website. It's kind of the look and feel. So we're going to kind of go into the areas of a website they focus on, and so you can get a good idea of the skills necessary to work in this field. So that's going to be the basics. It's going to be fonts. So you're going to choose the font family, the font sizes, the font weight, if it's heavy or like bold or light. It's going to be colors. It's going to be a color family. It's going to be colors that match well together. It's going to be color changes throughout the site too, if there's like hover effects and things like that. It's also going to be layout, how the website is actually laid out into sections of content. It might be like one big section, or it might be broken up into a couple or three or four across. So it's going to be layout. It's also going to be hierarchy. And what I mean by that is you're going to have sections that are bigger and bolder. And those are the areas where you want to draw a lot of attention. And there's going to be other sections that are kind of less bold and smaller. And so you get kind of a hierarchy of, okay, this is the most important, this is a little bit less, a little bit less, a little bit less. And so you kind of have a hierarchy of most important to least important. Okay, so that's hierarchy. They're going to be in charge of images, illustrations, icons, things like that. So it's going to be the placement of those images and icons and illustrations, and also even the creation of some of them as well. Some people are good at illustrations and some other designers are not, but that is something they will at least place within the page and have an overall good placement of the images. Also, visual consistency is another one. So when you look at a website, you have certain fonts and colors and layout and hierarchy, other things we kind of talked about. And with that said, when you go to a different page on the website, it needs to be consistent. It needs to be basically the same. So you don't go to one page to another and be like, this page looks different. Is this the same website? I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's different. So you want that consistency throughout the entire site. So that's another thing that a UI designer needs to be aware of. Next one would be white space, and this is actually very important. White space gives kind of a breathing room to the page. So have you ever been to a website where it's just like really, really cluttered, everything's close together, it's really visually overwhelming, you don't know what to look at? White space opens that up. It helps the page breathe, so people can digest the content a little bit easier. Another one would be mobile responsiveness. So this is something that has become very important in the last number of years, and that is to make sure that your site is responsive to mobile devices. So that means like when you look at it on your phone, you can see things easily when you're scrolling, and things are easy to read, and it's very usable as well as on a computer. So you need to be able to consume the content easily on any device, basically. Another one is animations and effects. Have you ever been to a website where you kind of hover over a button and the button kind of like changes? The color changes, or the button grows or shrinks, or there's a drop shadow, things of that nature. That's going to be things that the UI designer will design as well. Also button shapes. You've seen buttons that are square, that are rounded, all kinds of different button shapes and sizes. And there's a number of other things that UI designers do as well, but the idea is that they're creating this design to be centered around the user, and it's called user-centered design. And that's basically means that you're trying to create a visual look and feel that is most fitting for the user. So think about your audience. So if it's like a bank or something, you want to have very, very trustworthy kind of imagery and design, very like blue and green trustworthy colors, things like that. If it's a website for older people, you want to have like large buttons, large texts, very easy to use. So you have to kind of take the user in mind when you create these designs as well. So I want to go over just a few good examples and bad examples so you can get an idea of kind of what they do. So we'll dive in here. So here we have Airbnb. And I'll kind of point out some of the things that we already covered here so you can see what I'm talking about. But here you can see that there's good hierarchy here. You have, this is an Airbnb website right here, and the top you have places to stay, experiences, online experience. So it kind of starts with experiences and location and dates and guests. And then you kind of have this, not sure where to go, and so kind of like an exploration button. Then also notice, like when I scroll, see how the menu changes there like that? It kind of minimizes. So that is an aspect of UI design as well. And then here, kind of we have this layout here where there's like 4 different sections here. And then it kind of goes to a different layout here with 2. Notice when I hover over the button, there's this darkening effect, this hover state. That's UI design. All this stuff, everything you see is all UI design basically. So that's kind of a quick overview of this one. We'll jump over to this one, which is a whole different, this is a lot more interactive website. See how when I hover over the pictures, they kind of stop. You get a little information bubble that comes up. So this is extremely interactive and kind of a cool feature. And then when you can see the button is nice and bold. You have clear hierarchy of large type here. That has to do with work because it's underlined. And then you have some clear text here. And then your navigation up here. When you scroll, you have these cool little hover effects, clear call to action. Like the hierarchy on this website is excellent, and it's got a ton of white space. I was talking about white space. I mean, look how much breathing room there is in here. It helps you really focus on the content that is here. And this scrolling effect is another thing that's UI specific too. So this is all very intentional interaction design. And again, kind of like a grid layout here. Big, bold numbers. So this is a very well-designed website. Okay. Then we'll jump over, everybody knows Apple. Apple is excellent at UI design. So kind of scroll through here as well. So they have great interaction design here. Cool color changes here, if you notice that. See, it's black and it changes to green so that's a very cool little effect there. Things kind of slide up and fade, or come into, they kind of fade out and then fade in when you come down. Everything kind of fades in. You have cool little video there. Very cool. Clear grid structure as well. You have the full width, then you have kind of like a 3/4 and a quarter, half and half, another half here, half and half. Very clear structure. Here's kind of a 4 grid layout here. And you have the underlining when you hover. So I think you probably get the idea. It's basically everything that's on here that's visual. Every little interaction, little hover state with the color changes. All this is UI design. All the text, the color of the text, the line spacing between the text here. Like even like the little circle here to tell you which one is selected. That little interaction there. So like everything here is something you would work on as a UI designer. So these are all things you have to take into account. Now, with that said, I kind of want to go over some websites that are not so great, so you can kind of get an idea. We've covered some well-designed websites, and we'll kind of dive into some that are not so great, and I'll point out a few issues here. So this is JP Morgan Chase, and kind of point out a few things here. One is it's kind of, I would say, kind of bland. It seems kind of like just a basic template. Nothing seems very, I don't know, just the overall feel is kind of bland. One thing here that jumps out right away is like these buttons here. They're not spaced out well, like they're right against the bottom of this container, and it's not a good visual design for this, basically. It's not like a well-designed button or anything. It just kind of just sitting there on the bottom. And you can see like this one's really close to the bottom. This one has a little bit of space from the bottom. So it's just really inconsistent. And also, I don't know why there's like space on either side of this grid in here. I would think like this should take up the whole width of this container. I don't know why it's kind of just like cropped to this middle section here. So that's kind of odd. Same with this, I don't know why they wouldn't make it just kind of full width. Buttons are all kind of bland. There's no hover effect when you go over it. There's no effect at all. And in fact, this button doesn't even work. None of the buttons are working. Let me reload the page. Okay, so that one's starting to work. Let's go back down and see if it's working. Okay, the buttons are working now. So that was kind of odd. But yeah, not that well designed, and I believe it's not responsive either. You can do that. I believe you can. Let's see. So I can actually pull this out. And if I change the width of this page, let me close this. Watch what happens here. See how this text is like right up against the edge, and it even starts to like go outside of the container. Like this is really, really bad stuff here. And this is like, you can't even read this anymore hardly. The rest of it is kind of responsive. It's changing, but there's like not enough space down here. Yeah, just responsive is not good on this one. So that's that one, not that great. Got another one here. IMDb, and this is a website about movies and things like that. And the issue with this one is it's not bad, it's just very, very busy. And you don't really know what to look at particularly. It's not really guiding you in any direction. And that's what's important with UI design, is they're trying to help the user accomplish something for the most part, or help them explore and find something. And if you don't kind of like gently nudge them in a direction, it's difficult to create a design unless you have like some kind of direction for them to go. So if you come down, I'll click on one of these people here. And everything's just very, very crowded in here. You have these ads that are distracting. I don't know what this is. Just very, very, I mean, this is kind of overwhelming. And the font here is really, really small as well. Kind of a little bit difficult to read. But that's kind of just like an overview of stuff that's not great. And I'm not sure the responsiveness on this site or on this page either. Let's shrink this one up. So yeah, this one's not responsive at all. So, you know those websites that you go to and you have to like zoom in and then kind of like move around. It's a horrible user experience, which is another topic we'll cover in another video. But yeah, not mobile responsive, so not very usable, and just not very well designed. So I hope this kind of gives you an idea of what a UI designer does. They handle basically all the visual aspects of a website, and they're going to be using tools such as Sketch or Figma. I'm a big fan of Figma myself. That's what I use. I've used Sketch before, but they also need to know Photoshop, Illustrator, might need to know some basic HTML and CSS, maybe even some JavaScript. These are the kind of skills that a UI designer needs to excel in their job or in the work that they do. So I hope that gives you a good idea of what a UI designer is and what they do. And if you like this content, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.